A seismic week in the House of Commons kicked off by the defection of Nova Scotia MP Chris Dantramont from the Conservatives to the Liberals, who were only too happy to leave the doors to the caucus room wide open so cameras could show the warm welcome for their new MP.
Rumors I've heard of intimidation and harassment are from Liberals badgering Conservatives in elevators and calling them at home. All of this is an attempt to distract from Mark Carney's first budget, a terrible budget that is being almost universally panned.
The day started like any other in Ottawa: grey skies, tight smiles, and a Parliament Hill heavy with tension. But by afternoon, a political earthquake ripped through the Conservative benches. Chris Dantramont, a rising MP once seen as Pierre Poilievre's quiet enforcer, stood up, straightened his tie, and crossed the floor. Gasps filled the House. Cameras swiveled. Journalists scrambled. Dantramont wasn't just leaving the Conservatives, he was joining Mark Carney's government. And not just as a backbencher. Word spread fast that Carney had offered him a junior ministerial role, possibly even in Treasury or Trade.
Before moving forward, do subscribe for Parliament updates.
A Conservative-turned cabinet ally, unthinkable just months ago. But here's where it gets ruthless: this wasn't just a random defection. It was a strategic assassination, political chess, executed by a banker-turned-statesman who plays the long game better than anyone in Ottawa. Because Carney didn't just flip one MP. He flipped the narrative. For weeks, Poilievre had hammered the same lines: Carney's out of touch. Carney's a globalist. Carney doesn't understand working Canadians. But with Dantramont's move, that messaging collapsed. Here was one of Poilievre's own loyalists saying, without words, "Actually, Carney gets it." Within hours, another shock followed. Reports surfaced that Anthony Genereux, an independent once close to the Conservatives, was also in advanced talks with the Liberals. 2 defections in 1 week. Ottawa hadn't seen a maneuver like this since the early Martin years. And Poilievre? He exploded. Sources inside his caucus say he slammed a binder in frustration, accusing a mole operation within his own ranks. Some MPs even called for an internal loyalty review, a move that only deepened the cracks. Suddenly, the great Conservative war machine looked like a house divided. Meanwhile, Carney stood in front of cameras, cool, composed, almost surgical in tone. He didn't gloat. He didn't attack. He simply said, "I welcome anyone who believes in rebuilding Canada from the middle out. It's time to move beyond slogans and toward solutions." It was a dagger wrapped in velvet. Because while Poilievre screamed about betrayal, Carney looked prime ministerial.
Where are things in your party right now?
It's a great question. Look, it was a tough week. There's no question when you lose 2 members and 1 to a floor crossing. Like you just showed those images of Dantramont walking into caucus. I felt like I was punched in the stomach again. I've known Chris for 30 years almost, and he was a Conservative staffer, turned MLA and provincial cabinet minister in Nova Scotia, and then a member of Parliament continuously throughout all those things. I don't think he's done everything in between. So when you lose someone like that, it's like he's left the family. And I know we have issues at times as a party. All parties do. And someone that was such a lifer in our party, it hurts tremendously to see something like that happen. Now,
it's patriotism when your crowd does it. It's opportunism when the other crowd does it.
Thank
right?
you,
yeah.
Thank you for getting that.
Yeah, no, I mean, like Leona Alislev was standing up for her country. Chris Dantramont is betraying everything he stood for. It's just the way this goes.
Said it better.
Right? Yeah, everything's a Rorschach test in politics.
And then came the second strike, the budget. Carney's first full fiscal plan as Prime Minister wasn't just policy, it was philosophy. Massive investments in green infrastructure, a new middle-class savings credit, and a strategic innovation fund aimed at Canadian tech independence. But here's the kicker: it was paid for. Balanced through targeted carbon revenue and a wealth efficiency levy that hit multinationals, not average Canadians. It was, as one analyst put it, a blueprint to make capitalism work again for everyone. In Parliament, Poilievre tried to counter. He threw out his trademark zingers, accused Carney of banker socialism, and demanded answers on spending. But the energy wasn't there anymore. The camera angles told the story. Half of his caucus wasn't clapping. Even the loyalists looked uneasy. Because behind the scenes, more were talking to Carney's team. Dantramont's move had opened the floodgates. MPs who once feared Carney's calm, technocratic aura were now seeing it as a lifeline, a place where ideas mattered more than ideology. And Carney knew exactly what he was doing. He had quietly told his inner circle, "This isn't about a majority tomorrow. It's about legitimacy today." The strategy was simple: weaken Poilievre's credibility, absorb centrist conservatives, and position Carney as the only adult in the room. By the time the next election comes, the Liberals wouldn't just be a government, they'd be a movement. In political terms, it's called the absorption doctrine, a slow erosion of opposition identity until they collapse inward. And right now, Poilievre's party is showing every symptom. Ottawa insiders now whisper that up to 6 Conservative MPs have been approached or in conversation with Carney's operatives. One senior figure put it bluntly: "It's not a question of if the dam breaks. It's when." Meanwhile, Carney's poll numbers are surging, not because Canadians suddenly love the Liberals, but because they're tired of the chaos. After years of slogans, soundbites, and stunts, Carney's quiet authority feels like oxygen in a room full of smoke. And the final twist. Reports suggest Carney might soon announce a national unity initiative, a bipartisan task force on cost of living and productivity. If he invites a few centrist conservatives to join, that could be the final humiliation for Poilievre. Imagine your own MPs sitting at Carney's table, helping design policies your party once mocked. That's how political empires collapse, not with one defeat, but with a slow, elegant takeover. Chris Dantramont's defection was the spark. Mark Carney's strategy is the fire. And Pierre Poilievre's once mighty conservative machine. It's standing in the smoke, unsure where the exit is. The night after Chris Dantramont crossed the floor, Ottawa didn't sleep. Inside Conservative headquarters, lights stayed on past midnight. Staffers whispered in hallways, campaign advisors hovered over polling charts, and Poilievre's inner circle tried to plug a ship that was clearly taking on water. By morning, the headlines were brutal. Conservative chaos. Dantramont defects, party in turmoil. Carney's calm dominance shakes Ottawa. And as if that wasn't enough, Carney moved in for the kill. At 9 a.m., the Prime Minister's office released a single-line statement that rippled through the country. "We welcome any parliamentarian ready to work for solutions, not slogans. No attacks. No names. Just quiet confidence." But behind the scenes, that one sentence detonated like a political grenade. Because what Ottawa insiders didn't know yet was that Carney's people had already been in contact with 2 more potential defectors, both young, ambitious MPs from Ontario's manufacturing belt. Their offices had been seen empty. Staffers were unusually silent. The rumor mill roared. Pierre Poilievre, meanwhile, was in crisis mode. Those close to him say he demanded daily loyalty calls from caucus members. Every single MP had to reaffirm they were still on Team Blue. It was a loyalty purge, old-school style. But it backfired. A leaked internal memo, obtained by several media outlets, showed that at least 10 MPs had expressed serious concern about Poilievre's leadership tone and inability to adapt to Carney's centrist momentum. In plain English, they were losing faith. And that's when the generational split inside the party became undeniable. Older MPs wanted to double down on the attacks, louder, angrier, more populist. But younger conservatives wanted something else, credibility. They were tired of slogans that didn't translate into solutions. They wanted policy. They wanted purpose. They wanted Carney's calm. And Carney knew it. At a private roundtable with business leaders, he said something that would later leak through a journalist's notebook. "This isn't about left or right anymore. It's about who's serious about governing and who's performing for the cameras." That quote went viral. By the weekend, Carney's approval rating had jumped 7 points. Poilievre's down by 5. And for the first time, polls showed Canadians preferred Carney as most trustworthy on the economy. The same issue Poilievre once owned. But this story wasn't just about numbers, it was about power. Because Carney wasn't just building a government. He was rebuilding Canada's political DNA. While Poilievre ranted about globalists and inflation in fiery soundbites, Carney quietly unveiled the National Renewal Plan, a sweeping blueprint targeting productivity, clean manufacturing, and economic resilience. It came with 3 words that defined his vision: stability, growth, unity. And when Carney said unity, he meant it. He invited cross-party collaboration on infrastructure, housing, and tech reform. He even called for a bipartisan advisory board, something unheard of in modern Canadian politics. The message was clear. He was building a coalition of competence, not ideology. Meanwhile, Poilievre tried to fight back. He launched rallies, promised to take the country back, and accused Carney of buying loyalty with power. But even his tone had changed, less conviction, more desperation. He looked cornered, not commanding. Then came the breaking point. During a live committee hearing, Poilievre confronted Carney face to face. It was supposed to be his big comeback moment, the viral clip that would reignite his base. But instead, Carney dismantled him calmly, point by point. No raised voice. No insults. Just sharp, surgical logic. Even Conservative MPs couldn't help but nod. When the clip hit social media, it exploded. Millions of views. Thousands of comments. And the top one summed it up perfectly. Poilievre brought slogans. Carney brought strategy. That was the moment the tide turned. The aura of invincibility around Pierre Poilievre shattered. The man who once ruled social media politics had just been undone by quiet intelligence. By week's end, whispers of a leadership review began circulating inside Conservative HQ. Senior members wanted to reassess direction. Translation: they were preparing for life after Poilievre. Carney, meanwhile, made his most symbolic move yet. He appointed Chris Dantramont as Minister for Democratic Reform, giving the defector a public role dedicated to building trust in institutions. It was poetic, almost surgical. The man who left Poilievre now leading the fight to restore faith in Canadian democracy. Ottawa understood the message immediately. This wasn't just politics. It was chess. And with that move, Carney didn't just win the day. He redefined the game. As Poilievre's grip slipped and the Conservative brand fractured, Carney emerged as something rare in modern politics, a leader who didn't need chaos to command attention. His rise was deliberate, disciplined, and devastatingly effective. And when future historians write about this moment, they'll point to one week, the week of the Dantramont defection, as the instant when Canada's political axis quietly shifted. Because that's how real power works. It doesn't shout. It moves. And while Pierre Poilievre was still yelling into microphones, Mark Carney was already redrawing the map.
Canada debates.